All right, we are live. Hi, everyone who's logging on. Welcome. We will begin promptly at 7 p.m. and thanks for joining. We need some elevator music. Thanks for joining. It's 6:59. We'll begin at 7. And thanks again to everyone who's logging in here. Welcome to high school and college sports amid COVID-19. We're going to talk about a fall without sports and what that means at the high school and college levels. In another minute, we'll begin. Thanks again, everyone who's logging in. Welcome to Inside LI. Tonight's panel is about high school and college sports amid COVID-19. This is part of our free live webinar series hosted by Richner Live and Inside LI. And it's 7 o'clock. So we will turn to our panel here, and Tony Bellissimo will kick it off.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Bellissimo, sports editor of Herald Community Newspapers, and welcome to the 5th installment of Herald Inside LI, a weekly webinar series produced by Richner Live, which brings together leaders from the business, government, and nonprofit sectors to address your most important issues. Tonight, we'll be discussing COVID-19's impact on high school and college sports, particularly as it relates to student athletes. And I'm sure many of you know, Section 8 and Section 11 recently announced the postponement of athletics through the end of the year, along with a lot of college conferences. So this has serious effects on schools and student athletes, especially the student athletes in high school with an eye on playing at the next level. I've been covering high school and college sports for the Herald for more than 25 years. Tonight, we are honored to have an outstanding group of panelists to discuss the current state of high school and college athletics. Joining us are Chuck Priore, head football coach at Stony Brook University, Danielle Santos Atkinson, head coach of women's basketball at Hofstra University, Michael Rubino, head football coach and athletic director at Valley Stream Central High School, and David Viegas, director of health, physical education, and athletics for the Hewlett-Woodmere School District. And our moderator for the next 45 minutes will be Skye Ostricher. And Skye, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tony, for the introduction, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Inside LI. I'm your host, Skye. Each week on Inside LI, we discuss different issues pertaining to Long Islanders, along with a panel of guest experts in a specific field or industry. And tonight, we'll be talking about high school and college sports and the decision by both Nassau and Suffolk County Athletic Associations and certain college athletic conferences to postpone fall sports. Before I introduce tonight's panel, I wanted to take the time to tell you that this show is recorded and can be watched at liherald.com/insideli, along with other past episodes of our show, and you can also register for future episodes there. For the next 45 minutes, I'll engage in discussion with our panel, and while I usually take Q&A from our viewers in order to abide by NCAA rules, there will be no live Q&A, just our panel discussion with questions that have come from both myself and our sports director, Tony, who you just heard from. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our panel tonight on Inside LI. Coach Chuck Priore, a Long Beach native who has served as head coach of Stony Brook football since 2006, leading the Seawolves to 4 championship playoffs and 4 conference titles. Coach Danielle Santos Atkinson, the 12th head coach in the history of Hofstra women's basketball. She's entering her 2nd season at the helm this year. Mike Rubino is entering his 5th season as the Valley Stream Central High School head football coach, and he also serves as athletic director for the high school. and David Viegas, Director of Health, Phys Ed, and Athletics for Hewlett-Woodmere Public Schools. He's held this role since 2015 and oversees 88 coaches, 65 teams, and 19 health and phys ed teachers. Thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules to join us this evening. And I'd like to kick off the discussion with hearing from each of you about your thoughts on the decision to postpone sports this fall. And let's begin with some of our high school representatives. David.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And this is a great opportunity to communicate to a lot of people. And working in a school, our focus all summer has been about getting all our students to school, from our earliest learners to our high school seniors. And that's really been the focus. How are we going to get them into school to learn? It's high school sports is really education based. So, although I know we're not happy and we were disappointed with it and seeing our fields and courts empty, I think the focus had to be getting our kids back to school, ready to learn. They missed out on the education part in the spring. So, although it tears me apart to not see our kids and be at their games, I think the focus had to be on getting us back into school. And now that we're there, staying open. That's got to be the focus for the short term.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, what are your feelings about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I don't envy anyone that was in that position where they had to make that call. But if you look today, every day you're almost hearing about a school having to shut down and close, and because of Corona, and you really just don't know how that would have played out if we were trying to play sports right now. So it was a very difficult decision. And like David said, the academics had to be number one on the list.
And at the college level, Danielle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Again, like Michael said, it had to be a tough decision to make. I'm thinking everybody and all of their thoughts and what's gone into decision is getting the students back in schools, as well as making sure it's safe for everyone to be able to play and be involved. And I think there was a process for that. There's a process at the college level that we're going through in order to determine what is the best way that we do this. What is the best way that we can return to our fields, to our courts, the safest way possible, as we also try to navigate everything on our campuses as well.
And at Stony Brook with you, Coach Priore?
Yeah, I think as Danielle articulated, as college coaches, we have an obligation of the health and safety of our student athletes. And I think we owe the parents that opportunity. I was fortunate enough to be involved on a national committee that was making decisions, as well as a CA committee as we compete in the same league as Hofstra basketball. And, throughout that process and learning, because I was learning, it was apparent to me that if this came about, it was because of the correct reasons, and that was the health and safety of our student athletes. And I'll share one other thing. I did not think in the COVID time that our kids were prepared to play football for this fall. They had gyms closed. A good portion of our team are New York based. Gyms were closed. Their preparation time was not there. And the risk of potential injury, which combined with the COVID risk, I didn't think matched. So I don't want to sit there and say I was gung-ho for it to be canceled, but I understood the reasons, and I think we need to make the most out of it and figure out how to move this process forward, which I think we're all doing a great job of on Long Island.
Yeah, it seems like all four of you then are on the same page about that. It was about the health and safety, and you're for the decision, and it's the best for the kids. Now, what are some of the reactions that you've heard from some of your athletes?
Just from my chair, one of the things when we left campus on March 13th for spring break and did not return, I just promised the kids we'd be the most informed, organized, and efficient program as we could be when they were away. And so I didn't keep them in the dark in anything. I was very transparent throughout the process. We talked all the time about what if we didn't play and how we're going to get better as a program and reach success. So, we really didn't have those tweets going out. I'm disappointed because I think we were sold to be a great football team. We've got to work hard and support decisions made by our administration and our state. And so it ended up being a good transition for us.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts?
Well, it was not a fun phone call to make some of our guys and kind of letting them know that we wouldn't be starting on time. But like Coach Priore said, it was really a challenge for the coaching staff to kind of be creative as we could to keep everyone involved and also stay positive, and then, be as transparent as we could in updating, our players and also our parents.
I could imagine a lot of high school students then must be concerned about how will they showcase their talent? How can they be recruited? Has this come up in conversation with either students or their parents?
Yeah, it has come up. I think the number one thing that everyone has to remember right now is this is a tremendous opportunity for academics to be, the number one goal for all of our students right now. So that's kind of what we're pushing to our kids. It's a great opportunity, to raise your GPA to the highest it's ever been. And then, start making contact with coaches in a variety of different ways and, stay focused on the goal.
Yeah, I think speaking with our student athletes, they're being on social media, they know or they become aware of the other methods of showcasing their talents, going out onto the field, having mom, dad, their friend videotape them, highlight their skills, put that somewhere and be ready to show it off to when that coach comes calling or when they figure out where they want to go to school to send that off. So they're savvy these days with social media, so they've become attuned to that. So, and again, I think Mike used a great word. Transparency has been very important. When kids have asked questions about why, it's really trying to give them as much the information I know. I try to share it with them, and when you put it out to them, they're receptive of it. And when you speak to their parents, they understand that too. Again, they're disappointed, but I think when they hear about the health and safety and getting kids back to school to learn, the parents and students I've interacted with seem to be in a good place with them.
So in football, you'll accept videos of kids that are trying out for the team that want to show off their skills. Does that work the same in basketball, Danielle? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, same for us. We will accept video. We've watched a lot of video. We've gotten a lot more communication with people through email and obviously mail and phone because of the times. But it's been great, and one of the things that we've told a lot of our prospective student athletes was not only stay in the communication and do your homework, but also be prepared, because there will come a time where we will be able to showcase your talents again, and you will be able to get back out there and play, and you don't want to sit around throughout this time and that time come and you're not ready, because that will then be the most important time. And so just in this time, making sure they're not only doing their homework, building the relationships and staying in communication with all of the schools that they're interested in, but also making sure they're physically and mentally prepared for when they are able to get back out there on the field or the court.
I think staying positive is the most important thing, because if you sit there and say doomsday is happening, it will happen to you. So I think if the young men can stay positive, we have learned different ways of recruiting and outreach. I was never on a Zoom call before in my life before April 1st.
Now we've done enough for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, right.
I'll give you an example. Today, we had 32 NFL teams on a Zoom call with our director of player personnel, our strength coach, our trainer, and myself, showcasing our kids. We've never had 32 NFL teams visit our campus, so our kids got more exposure this year than they normally would do. And I do believe that the high school student can get more exposure because the colleges will learn how to recruit. So I would not put it on pause. I'd put it on acceleration.
Wow. So what are some other innovative ways or practices that you've adapted to during this time?
Well, I think what we have done is we've created podcasts of everything that goes along with our recruiting process. So we have an academic podcast done by our academic advisor. We have a podcast done by our strength coaches. We have a podcast done by our coordinators of offense and defense. We did a campus tour with a drone that was narrated by a student athlete. And we did those things. And then we just built a pyramid. And honestly, our recruiting model stayed the same. And we contacted the kid, pushed a button, and they got more of campus and more of our things in April, May, and June than they would have ever had. So I honestly think the kids that we're recruiting are benefiting from knowing Stony Brook better.
Yeah. They've also, with the change of some of the NCAA rules and student athletes not being able to come to campus, they're able to get on a call and come face to face with our academic advisor, with our strength coach, and with our student athletes, which was a great change, because that's one of the most important things. Who are the people that I'm going to be surrounded by during my time when I'm in college, and being unable to get to a college campus and really having a feel for that, and not only getting that information, but understanding who my teammates are going to be and what they're like, having the ability to get on and spend some time with them virtually also has been something that's been helpful for us, to where they're able to still build those relationships and have that contact, even though they're not able to step foot on campus.
And I would say this, after 38 years in this business, if you're picking a school because of what the dorm room is or the cafeteria food, you're probably not well-versed in the process. So you can do almost everything from your household, as we are doing tonight, and know about that college. You're picking it academically. You can do your research on every coach there in the program. And if it matches, it's just as easy.
Yeah. I think it's important at the high school level, and Mike, I hope you agree, it comes back to the coach too, having those honest conversations with the athlete, making sure their skills are lined up with the right school, and picking the school first and then the sport second. If that's really where the focus is. Where do you want to study? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now after you graduate working? Because that's the school that you should be going to focus in on that. The athletics will help you get into that institution.
Yeah, I think it's finding that perfect fit, right, of academics and athletics. But like you said, the academic part has to come first, because, you won't be happy if you just go somewhere just for the sport, Right. So that's really important.
In reality, Mike and I are dealing, less than 1% of our kids are going to that Division I, to Stony Brook, Hofstra play at that level. We're getting the Division II, Division III students, or the community college kids, and so we deal with all of that. That's really the focus, is find the school that's right for you, and then let's fill in the gaps with the athletics.
Now, if there are high school students, let's say, that would like to play on a sports team in college, but they can't showcase their skills this season, what are you telling them from the high school? What is the directive to them with how to get on the radar to some of these coaches when they might not be able to afford a private league to train? So we have the idea of filming your skills on the field or on the court, but what other advice, or what else could you tell some of these high school students?
Well, I know in our district, I'm fortunate we have our varsity coaches have been there for a few years now. A lot of them have played college athletics, so they've made those connections. They have those relationships with those college coaches. So sometimes the phone calls, and just as we go through the process, the emails to the coaches, writing an old-fashioned snail mail letter to a coach may make a difference when you take the time to write something versus email. So again, like you said, getting the videotape, whatever we have to do to help them. I know my staff is there to help our kids, because as one coach was telling me today, we got into this business for kids, so we're going to do what we can to help them.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about social media, I think Twitter, I found, is the best tool for some of our athletes to kind of get in contact with coaches. Just about every college football coach in America is on Twitter. You can reach them easily that way. And it's about marketing yourself in the most positive light possible, doing the right thing off the field, and, making sure that your Twitter reflects that in a positive light. And you're marketing yourself. I mean, let's be honest here, right? It's a business. College sports is a business. And, you want to showcase what you can do through video. But, Twitter's a great way to get your name out there. Coach, you'd probably agree, in that Twitter bio, get your GPA in there, let them know what class you are, and just make it as easy as possible for these coaches to recruit you.
Is that, you guys agree with that, both of you coaches, Coach Atkinson and Coach Priore?
Yeah, I definitely think any type of communication is great, and the more detailed the information, the better. We receive film all the time, and I don't know how many film videos I've received where I have no idea which team and no number, and so it's the more detailed the information, the better. And like Coach said, if you are playing for a coach that has, or a trainer, or even a mom or dad that has the different connections in the network, picking up the phone and making the phone calls is also a great way to get in contact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as part of our job, and the recruitment part of our job, is to find the student athletes. So I think no coach is going to not find football players for this season. So there's not actual game film from this senior year, but a lot of the kids are recruited pre-senior year off junior year film. And then coaches' recommendations. I mean, Coach Mike is out here all the time at our schools. And if he calls me up and says, we've got this player, we're gonna take that word of the coach because he's reputable, he understands the game, and it's gonna help us. And then, reaching out to us is certainly a way through the social media networks. There's what's called Huddle out there that all the high schools are part of. We're a member of it. I'm sure the basketball program is. We could punch any kid in and see their film today as long as we have their name. So we find their name, we can evaluate them.
Now, you're using social media and explaining that that's a great tool. Is that something that carried a lot of weight before COVID?
It did. We would always find out more information. Right now, we're using it a lot more. We weren't able to visit Valley Stream Central this springtime, which we normally would have. We weren't able to see kids at various camps in the summertime. So we are using it much more to gather information about the kid, specifically height and weight in my sport, maybe what their background is, because you'll see how many brothers and sisters they have and things like that. Certainly it's been advantageous.
Mm-hmm. And with Coach Atkinson, same thing. Have you been using social media more now? I know basketball will be a little after right now, but I'm sure it's impacted your sport already.
Yeah, for sure. We use social media a good bit already, but like Coach said, it was usually on our end and showcasing Hofstra and our program, and then learning a little bit more from a personal level about our prospective student athletes. But now it has been a tool to see different games. I know there's a lot of games that are being streamed on social media that we've been watching, but then also the individual workouts that a lot of players have been posting. We see those and we watch those.
So now that we're speaking with you, Coach Atkinson, question specifically about basketball. With that season being bumped, it normally starts in December, but now it'll start in January per these new guidelines. Will that impact your assembling a college team?
No, not for us. They're still going to be able to play a season, which is great. I know going into this fall, and especially not having a summer, there was anticipation of being able to get out to the high school season and see a lot of student athletes and be able to evaluate prior to the signing period in November. But the great thing is we've got time. We've got time, and for us personally, we've got the scholarships, and so we won't necessarily make a rush decision on a kid when we don't have to, when we have time to wait for the high school season. But again, like Coach said, going into their senior year, most of our student athletes and most of the people that were on our list that we've been recruiting and we've seen them prior to their senior year. A lot of our recruiting is done, and a lot of the evaluating is done prior to entering their senior year. Most of the time, that is really just relationship building and making a final decision. So for us going into this year, it hasn't affected our recruiting for this year. And we'll have time for the following class to be able to do some of those evaluations in the spring.
Now, what about Long Island kids specifically? If if our schedules on Long Island are postponed, will these kids be at a disadvantage when it comes time to applying to a college team or being recruited for a college team? Like, will you wait for their performance in the spring when there are other kids from around the country that may want to come to your schools who have been playing in the fall?
You know, we're fortunate enough at Stony Brook, being a state school and being very cost affordable to our New York State residents, that most of our base that we would consider preferred walk-on to earn scholarships and end up being NFL players, because we've had them, we can recruit them based on understanding their football program, understanding their high school coach's recommendation, what we've probably seen in the past in their sophomore and junior years, and certainly make this available. And we were on Zoom calls last week with 25 Long Island football players that aren't playing this fall. And a number of them, we're going to ask them to try to pick Stony Brook sometime in the next month or two. So it's a matter of us qualifying them and them liking us. So I don't honestly think it's going to hinder our football student athletes because of the way football recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Same for us. I think it's not a disadvantage. And like Coach said prior to, we've got to put a positive outlook and a positive spin on it, that there will be opportunity, and there will be opportunity for the student athletes to showcase their skills. And again, it's the new ways that we have of recruiting, and the new film and the new contacts that we've been able to come up with has been great. And if you're out there, we will find you. And there's also going to be a time for us to get back out and evaluate.
It really does sound positive and hopeful. So I hope that everyone watching who may be frustrated with not being on the field or not being able to compete really find some hope in what these coaches and athletic directors are saying here.
And I think it's important for all the student athletes and parents that are watching. It's not canceled. It's just postponed. So, you know, we will open up sometime. So they'll get their opportunity. You know, they just have to be patient with it. And as Coach said, you know, there are resources out there with Huddle and other things that, you know, as we open up, and we'll get the college coaches what they need, and we'll get the high school students what they need to advance their careers if they want to play at another level.
Yeah, it sounds like the students can really rely on you as faculty and as coaches for guidance and whatever they need. And since kids are so good with social media, it seems like they can really build a resume with their personality and with what they put out there as their digital resume.
Absolutely. I think, you know, once again, you know, if you're apprehensive, then you probably won't be able to perform. So I think if they just stick to the things, and the NCAA has been very user-friendly with some of their recruiting tools. I know the dead period, that's a health and safety reason for coaches to go out into high schools, which high schools don't want us in there. It would be more than a temperature check. And certainly I don't want to put my coaches in those situations either. But the NCAA has been very friendly of how they've been able to extend deadlines. I know our institution extended admissions deadlines and will extend it. I know the NCAA once again, academics should be the number one thing, but the NCAA is going to waive this year the SAT requirement part of the GPA. So, you know, even though you have a great GPA, sometimes that test was not able to meet those guidelines. It's going to open up more kids to more opportunities, in my opinion, at all levels and all different type of college opportunities academically. So there will be some pluses that come out of this if you want them to.
Yeah, that's a great attitude to have for everyone watching, and to hear it straight from you, the decision makers. It really is inspiring, I feel, at least.
And I know, you know, even though we're on pause, I know some districts, and hopefully as we loosen restrictions inside the schools, we'll start to gather our kids together and start to, reintroduce them to athletics and with some strength and conditioning and some fitness. I know in my district we're not there yet because, like I said, we're just trying to get all our kids back into school and keep our schools healthy and safe. But I know other districts they're starting to introduce those activities, and just to make sure that the kids who've been maybe inactive since March, so that just not jumping into a sport and get injured. So I know some districts are doing that, and I know our district will probably get there one day, and I know we're formulating a plan for that. So I think as we do that, there's more videotape opportunity there.
And talking about injuries, because like you said, these kids may be out of practice. Is there a program maybe that you'll put together to help kids to make sure that they're in shape that may be additional to what you had done in the past?
I think you have to, I think you have to, especially at the high school level, you're going to have so many different levels of commitment with different athletes. Some people are just focused on different things in life that are playing high school sports, which is great. So I think, in speaking to some different trainers and, about this topic, because it really is very important that we keep everyone healthy once we do get back. I think there'll be more of a focus on flexibility, agility, and, some resistance training rather than just jumping right into, heavy weights, where that's kind of what we build all winter and spring.
Mm-hmm. And Coach Atkinson, did you have something to say?
Yeah, so we've started on campus with our student athletes, and it's been a really slow progression. Like Coach said, it's been very different. All of the student athletes have had a different experience during their COVID time, during the shutdown. Some had gyms, some had gym access through an old high school coach or things like that. Some had a at-home gym, and some had nothing, except for their sneakers to go run around the block. And so for us, it was very different, and every athlete came in at a different level. And so we just want to make sure, like Coach said, that the biggest thing is making sure we stay away from any injuries. And so it's been a really slow progression in how we're building them up to get back to going at full speed. And so from the weight room to the basketball court and conditioning, everything is gone a whole lot slower than we would have in the past.
We here at Stony Brook really took a thought process of when do we want to be able to have them to compete on the football field, and then with our strength staff and our trainers and doing research, we put together a plan, and we had to stay in small groups as a football program and social distance and everything we've done and wear a mask at all our indoor scenarios. But from a training standpoint, our kids have really benefited. So we will go 7 weeks of preparation, and each week builds upon itself. We are allowed to do fall, which is spring football in the fall, and actually have what you would call practices. We're allowed 15. We reported August 24th, and that first practice will be October 13th. So you can see the amount of time we took to be ready to get them. And we're getting there, but some of our kids are not there yet because of what Coach said, that every kid came in a little different shape with a little different plus or minus. So we had to get them all on the same page. So I think everybody at the high school level will follow what we're doing at the college level for preparation. Nobody's going to put the injury part ahead of anything.
So what does a practice look like? You mentioned smaller teams and smaller breakout sessions. And so what does it look like that's different now than it was before?
When we're in the weight room, we're fortunate enough to have 2 weight rooms at Stony Brook, and we have the ability to put 24 kids in the weight room. We have 24 racks. Every kid's in a rack by themselves. They clean the weights off when they're done, and they work by themselves. And they've been doing that, the whole time. So they're one in a rack. And we go to the field right now, and we have masks on when we're doing that. When we go on the field, all our drill work, conditioning, skill work has got to be done in a social distance situation on the field. And we report to the field. We have different stations in the stadium. The groups stay the same. We did it by freshman class, by on-campus kids, off-campus by houses. So they stay in different pods within the stadium. When they get here, they get their food in that area. They leave their bags there. They leave the stadium around people. So it has been interesting. I give our kids a lot of credit. We spent a lot of time on putting these procedures together, but our kids have followed them, and I'm really proud of how they followed the rules because they want to play ball, just like every person on this call and every one of their kids. They want to play ball, and they know if they do the right thing, they'll be able to play ball. And Dave said earlier, the most important thing was to get the kids back to high school. That was the same thing for us. And to be honest with you, if school shuts down, football's going to shut down. So they want school to be successful. So they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
What have you seen, Coach Atkinson?
Same for us. And so our again, it's been a progression, not only in our workouts, but then also in our protocols. And so we've worked the same as Coach said. We've been in pods outside of anything that we're doing workout wise. That's also been the tough part, is they haven't been able to really hang out as a team. Outdoors, they're able to, en masse, social distance, they can hang out with each other. But we're not hanging out with any other teams, with any other people, and we're only hanging out indoors with our pods, which are the people that we live with. And so that's off the court. On the court, we've only done one-on-one sessions. And in the weight room, again, we're masked, and everybody is socially distanced. So as Coach said, everybody has their own, we go in groups, everybody has their own rack, and everybody has their own equipment while in the weight room, and we don't share any equipment, and we don't do any exercises as of yet where we would require a spot. Because we have to stay socially distanced. And so that's the weight room. Outside, we're socially distanced, so we don't have to wear a mask. And so we do our conditioning outside. We're on the field, but we do that in groups, and we're socially distanced. On the court, coaches are in mask and wearing gloves, and the players also have to work out right now in their mask. And so that's also been a change, and that's also been tough of working indoors and playing basketball when you get tired with a mask on. So that's been an adjustment, but they've done a great job with it. We're asking them to do something that as a collegiate student athlete, you're not used to doing. As being on a team, you're not used to doing. I feel like it has taken away a lot of what we love about sport. But it's also, like everybody has said here, turned a positive light on finding other ways and ways to be creative. And so again, they haven't been able to fully engage with each other, but that's forced us to do things virtually. How do you have a virtual game night with your team, which you wouldn't do otherwise? There's been a lot of time outside. We went to Target and Walmart, and they got a big Jenga, and they got all kind of outdoor sports where they can, just hang out and spend some time. We've done outdoor movies. And so just getting creative, and so we can get back to the competition part of it, which is, again, part of why we do what we do.
What about at the high school level? Mike, what are you seeing with your kids?
Right now, everyone's just kind of trying to socially distance. Like both coaches touched upon, we just want to play right now. So as long as everyone's following the guidelines, it's different. It feels different in school. I'd be lying to it if I said it wasn't. But where everyone's just trying to stay positive, follow the rules, wear your mask, and then hopefully, like David said, in the next few weeks, you'll start to see some high schools, generating some plans that we will be able to follow CDC guidelines and kind of get back together a little bit.
And what does a phys ed class look like now in a high school?
Well, every district is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to publicly commend my staff at Hewlett-Woodmere, because they are doing something which has probably never been done before. So we have kids that are remote, hybrid right now. So, and every class is being live streamed. So right now they're teaching to a camera and to the students at home. So they've really been focusing on two things: mental health topics and units, and also some fitness units, just to get the students back into a routine with fitness activities to help with their mental health. That's been our focus. But like I said, they're teaching to a camera and checking in with the kids at home. How's it going? You're doing a great job. Meanwhile, pointing to the kid right in front and doing the same thing. It's been remarkable, and to see teachers pivot the way they teach after just giving them 3 days of training and preparation and development. They've been remarkable. I know my district, I'm really proud and happy that we're doing that.
It must be interesting seeing, since you oversee so many different coaches and teams.
And it's interesting. We have the 12. We're 12 feet apart. Everything is outside. We're not using any equipment right now. As I keep using the expression, we're trying to loosen the valve. As we loosen the valve, and we can start to use more equipment and maybe our fitness center and do more things, then hopefully we'll get to a more traditional PE class. But right now it's 12 feet apart and more of the fitness type activities.
It's interesting that mental health comes into play with these health classes, and that's good to hear. And I know on Inside LI, when we did a panel with some of our K through 12 educators, they spoke about the impact of mental health on this experience with a lot of the kids. So I know that that's something very important at all levels. I mean, us included, adults and everyone. We all need some mental adjustment and mental health.
My football coach, who happens to be a health teacher, we were having a conversation today, and the unit today was about feelings, and he was asking kids how they were feeling, and the 10 words most used were all negative: depressed, anxious, bored, just nothing positive. So, it's our job as educators to try to shift that mindset and start to get them to understand, all right, we're back into a routine, you're back into school, things look positive. Even with schools closing, it's only a day or two. So, I look at that as a positive. We're not seeing schools being shut down for a week or 2 weeks. It's one day, you're back in. So I think there's positives, and we just got to keep focusing on that for the kids' sake.
Any other final thoughts or positive thoughts? We'll end on a positive note. Does anyone want to add anything to this?
I think that one of the things that we've talked about already a good bit is just staying positive. And like Coach said, the mental health aspect of it even here at the college level has been a huge piece. There's so much of the norm of what we're used to as an athlete. You start playing sports very, very young, and you know exactly what that season may look like from a planning perspective. You know what to expect in some cases. And right now, a lot of that's been taken away from us. And like you said, the word anxious comes up a lot, and not really knowing and understanding what could come, what could happen, what's next. That's tough. And so working through all of that, I think it's great. So we have conversations. I think it's great to have the conversations, to talk to your student athletes, to talk to your athletes, to talk to your daughters and your sons just about how they're feeling and what they're going through. It is definitely something that should be happening on a regular.
So absolutely agree. And just to the parents that are on this call, and something I said to our parents when I had to have them on a call to tell them we were not playing this season, how they handle it is how your son will handle it. If you handle it correctly and you support your administrators, your coaches, your son will be better off at the end. If you want to use that slogan, fight City Hall, it probably is not going to be a winning situation in a positive way. So we've all talked about positive, energy, and I think we could all put positive energy into this from the parental level, especially.
Control the controllables.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's the biggest thing right now, Coach. Absolutely.
Right, because we have seen some negative feedback from some students and parents who were concerned that their kids wouldn't be able to play. But like you're saying, everyone's on the same page. We're all in this together, and it's for the betterment of the future, because God forbid there is an outbreak, then that's it. These schools and your programs are going to have to be shut down. So everyone should keep that on the forefront of their minds when having to social distance and abide by the rules during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And it's not only just about the athletes. You got to remember, it's about the kindergartner that's stepping into a building for the first time. Think about how they're feeling. So we got to balance both ends of it. So we'll get there. You just got to be patient, and it may not be on their timeline, but it will be on a timeline that we'll get them there.
Awesome. Thank you. each of our panelists, our coaches, our athletic directors, thank you for taking the time to share with everyone here on Inside LI. And I'm going to put up a thank you screen so everyone knows the email address to send to if you have any suggestions or feedback for our panel or for the future, for any future topics. Please let us know. And this whole episode was recorded, so we will be posting that online at liherald.com/InsideLI for future use. And thank you again to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.